Welcome to the Faith Forum, a series of talks with leading thinkers, best-selling authors, business leaders, philosophers, artists, and theologians of our time. We're so happy you've joined us, and we hope this podcast offers food for your spiritual journey. From Christ Episcopal Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm the Reverend Chip Edens, and this is the Faith Forum. When we speak of stewardship, we're really speaking about the spiritual journey of our lives. Because giving, our time, our presence, our love, our resources is not just something we do, it's what we become. When we give, we are most like Christ. When we enter into His way of being, of open and generous and self-giving for the sake of others, we become like Jesus. Stewardship, therefore, is not merely a fundraising effort, it is a spiritual journey. It's how our hearts learn to trust, how to loosen the grip, and how to live in the flow of God's abundance. Each act of generosity, then, becomes a step in that journey, a way of saying, "Here I am, Lord, use me, shape me, make me a part of your work in the world." Today we're going to hear from our vestry members as we reflect on the spiritual journey. And I can't thank you enough for each of you, for your leadership and for your generosity that makes our work possible, as well as every one of you that's here today. Let us pray. Gracious and generous God, you are the source of all that we have and all that we are. You invite us to walk with you on this journey of faith and to discover that true life is found not in holding on, but in giving away. As we offer ourselves to you, teach us to see with Christ's eyes, to love with his heart, to serve with his hands, and bless our gifts, our intentions, and our hopes, that through them your kingdom may grow in this place and in our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so I got a first question that I want to ask you, which is just what I sort of talked about in the prayer about the spiritual journey, the stewardship journey that you've taken in the church. And I wonder, what have been some of the major moments or life events that have changed your perspective on giving? Let's say, why don't we start with you?
English or Spanish?
Why don't we start with English?
We've been in Charlotte at Christ Church for about 13 years. There's a few times that are very close to my heart, and I'll frame it around time, talent, and treasure. Time, this is many years ago, I got approached to serve as a mentor for a confirmation child, and we developed a mentoring relationship. His name is Colin Crawley. And we started doing Boy Scouts, we started doing community work. So it started with confirmation mentoring, and then he ended up interning at our business, and we ended up hiring him full-time. So that's an example of devoting time to one individual that grew, and today he's been promoted actually twice. It's a great example of something that was born here at Christ Church and has evolved over time. As far as talent, Cindy and I, since the beginning, we believe in the shadow of the leader and showing our children how to be involved with our talent. So every committee that you can think of, we've been a part of. I think the one that has had the most impact for me personally was the outreach committee, because I was completely ignorant about how many organizations Christ Church helps on a weekly, daily basis that we don't know about. So that was with Matt Holcomb back in the day, and it was a great experience that ended up leading me. I joined the board of one of the nonprofits locally because of the involvement of Christ Church with Charlotte Family Housing. And then the last one, the most obvious one for all of us, is treasure. And our mindset has changed over time, and we are a family that concentrates our efforts versus spreading them out. So probably 90% of our giving goes straight into Christ Church. And every year we make it bigger and more impactful, and God always provides. Every time I do the pledge, I'm like, how are we going to pull this one off? And every year he comes through. And I think it's an extra tax return that we may get a refund, or an extra bonus, or an extra dividend, or something that I had not expected. But every year he provides more, and then we turn around and provide more.
Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Jose. Hi, I'm Jenny Cobb, and this is you didn't ask for this, but this is my third and final year on the vestry. Roger and I joined Christ Church back in about 1995 or 96, and there have been I can't think of one or two examples of what Christ Church really has meant to us, but just a few things. We started getting involved right away as young adults, and coming to Christ Church was different then. I think that it was more just about coming to church on Sunday, and Roger was real involved in, both of us were getting involved with a brand new young adults group and things like that. But now Christ Church means so many more things, I think, from people that were at the women's retreat. It's not necessarily everyone who shows up on Sunday, but they're touched in so many different ways. The retreat, it will be the sages that come to hear the cardiologists speak about heart health. It might be the young ones singing in the choir, and their parents attend church there, or they come on this Wednesday nights. It might be the wonderful youth group in the new place we're going to have for them. And we're outgrowing the space that we have, and what a marvelous problem to have. Christ Church just means so many things to so many different people. Personally, just serving on different commissions and committees, and volunteering for one of my favorite events, Trunk or Treat, where there's hundreds of Christ Church members and friends and family, all ages, that come and celebrate just being together. We've been through, Roger and I both, the deaths of our parents, of one of my siblings. Christ Church is always there. It's wonderful to be able to give in a way that just comes from the heart. And even if you're at church on a Wednesday night, or you just come for a specific Brene Brown program or whatever it might be, we're going to need Christ Church at some point in our lives, and it feels good to be able to fall into the arms of this place. I
got one.
That's great.
Oh, you got one.
Thank you.
And trunk or treats on Tuesday.
Trick or treats on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Hi, my name's Charlie Deason. I'm second year on the vestry, so I got one more left. The word from Chip, your question that really stopped me, I guess, was journey, because I think with every spiritual practice, whether it's generosity or prayer or otherwise, I do feel like we're all on our journey, and maybe it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. But a key difference to me between generosity and time, talent, and treasure and prayers, we talk a lot about prayer growing up, and we don't talk a lot about generosity and how to even be intentional and thoughtful in it. And so maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but like for me and Sarah, it really started when we joined Christ Church like 5 years ago. And there were 3 of maybe more milestones that have been influential for us as we thought about how we can be more intentional with our time, talent, and treasure. The first was CCK, because, keep me honest, but I think you have to be a member in good standing, which means you make a pledge and you fulfill that pledge to be at CCK. And that was really the first time that we thought about any church as our spiritual home and how we wanted to make a thoughtful pledge and then stand behind it. So that was kind of step number 1. Step number 2 was rereading a book that I had read back in 2017, but I guess it didn't stick with me the first time. And it is called God and Money. And it was written by a guy I knew from when he was in private equity way back when. And it breaks apart all the 2,000 Bible verses that touch on giving of primarily treasure, and then also has helpful tools to think about how you're being one of 3 archetypes, and whether you're a spender, a saver, or a servant with all the treasure that you've been giving. And to me, that was just a thought-provoking read. And then last, and Jose and I didn't coordinate this, but being on the Outreach Commission was eye-opening for a number of reasons, but to build upon what Jose said, a lot of what you do is review grants from different organizations, and in a perfect world, we could give as much as every organization is requesting, but oftentimes you have to make hard choices. And thinking about both the impact that we have and the incremental impact that we can have, I think really brought to life the tangible impact that Christ Church can make.
So my name's Ned Waller. I'm a second-year member of the Vestry. And in terms of my journey, there's the journey at Christ Church and the journey we've all taken maybe before we got to Christ Church as adults in different phases of our lives. And so I'll say, I guess on the treasure front at Christ Church, I moved here after business school, and I figured that as a young associate in an investment bank, it was probably most responsible thing to do with my money versus other things that young bachelors can do in a bank to give it to the church. So that was the first start. But then really it started for me as a young adult right after college, living in D.C., going to an Episcopal church there, and I'd seen my parents as a practice of giving do that, and so I did the same. But that parish did amazing work in D.C. with the homeless. And so I saw that ministry in action, and I said, I want to give my time to that as well. And so once a month on Sunday mornings, I biked a few blocks to church and fried up a pan of eggs for the homeless breakfast that the church had done for years, and had a little prayer service and broke bread with our neighbors. And that was a practice that stuck with me at that church and really brought me into the fold there. And something similar at Christ Church, where I saw really through the ask I got to join the Outreach Commission, again, a third time's a charm on this lineup for that committee, to join that group and to see the work that Christ Church does in the community. And that set me on a journey of giving time when the ask came, and sometimes even volunteering myself if I was feeling brave for different things that go on in this parish. And so with those kind of asks and an ear open to God and a wallet open when the right time is there in your life, I've kind of come into how we and my wife and I approach our giving of ourselves in this parish at large.
Hi, my name is Beeland Vollinger, and this is my first year on the vestry. I would say my husband and I moved to Charlotte and joined Christ Church in 2003. And for a couple of years, we kind of flew under the radar. We didn't really step up to volunteer much. We just liked to watch and listen and come to church, and we thought that would be enough. But in 2005, we adopted our first child, and we saw how the church embraced us. And the nursery and the CCK preschool just was a lifesaver. It was everything. Our children thrived there. And we had to check ourselves, and we had to think, what would we be doing without this church? Where would our children go to school? Who would keep our children? Our parents lived out of state. We didn't have a babysitter network. It just became our home away from home. And so we wanted to start giving more. And then I was invited to step up and lead the Altar Guild, something I had never even volunteered for before. And I asked Joshua, "Are you sure you want me to be on the Altar Guild?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "You don't know me very well." And he said, "I know enough." And then I went home and cried. And I thought, what in the world? I guess I'm just going to have to just open my arms and my heart and go for it. The church believes in me, and I need to believe in myself too. And that has just been the biggest gift. And I have loved being a part of the Altar Guild for the last 3 years. And I've worked really hard with the chalice bearers and the ushers and the acolytes, just all the different parts of the church that come in and out of the sacristy that I'm supposed to tend. That's my job, is to take care of the sacristy and everything that's holy that we use during the church service. So it not only is a responsibility, but it's an honor. And now we give with everything we have. And it's just meant the world to me.
I believe in you, Beelan. I'm Carl Showalter, and I've had the honor and privilege of serving as your senior warden alongside these folks. Beelan and Jenny, don't roll your eyes, but I'm going to reference a little bit of scripture. It was Peter who said, each of us should use the gifts that we have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. Jane and I have been members of this church since 1984. We were a couple of young pups. We might have been 22, 23 years old at the time, trying to find our way. But we kind of got involved. All our children attended the preschool here. And there was a moment when our middle son was in preschool. I think he was in the 3-year-old class. And there was a cute little girl in his class, a girl. Sorry about that. Named Margaret Harris. She was the oldest daughter of Gigi and William Harris. And she received a diagnosis of a glioblastoma. And, while she was going through treatment, she still came to class and was a part of that class. But then there was a period of time when she was relegated to a wheelchair. And there was no ability to get her out of the carpool line, up the steps, and into the classroom. And Jane says, hey, you've got to do something. We've got to do something. You've got the skill set. You've got the resources. You've got the people. You've got the materials. Go over there and build a handicap ramp. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm going to do that. So we went over on a Saturday and built a handicap ramp such that when she got out of the car, in her wheelchair, we could roll her up into the classroom. And that was kind of the moment that kind of got our juices going here at Christ Church.
Thank
Sorry
you all.
about
that. I guess I'd love to go around again and think about, because there are these moments that we have, memories of where we've seen Christ Church love flow in. And sometimes that happens in individual acts, and sometimes it's kind of our collective work. But I want to come back to maybe some of the both individual and collective work that's moved the rest of you. I'll just say that for me, it happens nearly every day that I see something that kind of blows me away. And last week I was, oh boy, this gets me. You often hear about Habitat for Humanity, right? And what Habitat for Humanity does. And you know that Christ Church has had a long history of doing things with Habitat for Humanity. This past week, we finished and celebrated the 37th house. Now, it's one thing to think about a Habitat house and think, well, we've heard that before, and it's a well-known program. It's nothing to go to the house and meet the family and to hear their story, and to see a mom with with a child, and then to see the other child, 2 children, who lives with severe intellectual disabilities. And to know that you should feel this, that you, through your generosity, help build a house where a family is living now. A woman who works in a at a soup factory who has a stable job and a son with intellectual disabilities. They now have a safe place to live. And that young man will probably need to live with his mother for the rest of his life, rest of her life. And you help build that house. Now, that ought to make you feel good today. But I bet you there are a number of things that probably would make people feel good if they knew what was really going on here. So, what are some other things that maybe speak to you about what generosity does and looks like that can shape and change a life?
I think the Center for Wellbeing is a good example for us. We have a family member that has been dealing with addiction for about 15, 16 years, in and out of addiction. And the center has been wonderful for Cindy and I to navigate this journey. So that's a big one for us. Everything we do around the children and family ministry, especially with 3 kids. We have a 9, 11, and 14-year-old. And it's the formative years where we believe the church has a huge impact on who they'll be when they grow up. So everything from the curriculum to the activities to the building being built next door, we're excited for those 2 things. And I would say last, I'm a freshman on the vestry. We are part of the same class. So it's only been 9 months roughly, but it has been eye-opening to me how well run the church is. It runs like an enterprise. The budget, 98% of the funds are from all of you. Otherwise, we couldn't even turn on the light or run the operation. And it takes, I think, close to $300,000 a month to run the playbook. So it was really eye-opening to me to join the vestry. Number 1, how much money it needs to keep going. But number 2, the impact of all the things we do as a church that I was ignorant.
Yeah, the church costs, not that I'm counting, $17,808 a day to run. Yeah.
That number is astounding. And to think that 98% of what we provide 98% of running the church. That's the right number,
That's right.
correct? And that is absolutely blown me away. I mean, from every crayon in the Sunday school and glue stick to, and I always use that, but to the chalices and the silver polish and getting the scuffs off the floor. I mean, it's tremendous to think that we're responsible for that. It's a huge responsibility, and I don't want it to come to feeling like, gosh, we're responsible, but to find another part of giving to church. When Roger and I sit down, and I credit Roger for realizing that we actually need to give money to the church. When we first joined in our 20s, we weren't married quite yet, and I was asked to give money. I was like, why do you want money from me? I don't have any money. I guess it's $20, but that's embarrassing. But my parents didn't teach us about that. I hope that they gave to their church. But something Roger's family has always done, and we sat down to talk about it before we talked about giving anywhere else, like our regular giving to different organizations. This is a whole separate entity. And it's something we sit down and talk about, and where are we gonna find these funds to give to the church every year. And I'd like to also, back to the question, the Center for Wellbeing Care is just the most amazing place. I just personally, a couple years ago, we had a family emergency that had nothing to do with our immediate family, but extended family, and we didn't know where to turn. We didn't know where to get advice, and we triaged right on in and talked to Alex about, there's a facility here in Charleston and in Florida where here's a contact, and really helped us facilitate where to go, because church was the first place we called, because we didn't know where to turn. And then just even since then, that was several years ago. I mean, personally, I've seen Alex several times. It's just a really beautiful place to be. And when I tell people about the Center for Wellbeing and Care, they're like, "You what? You mean some churches have therapists that rent spaces in their church, and they have a little sign hanging up that'll say, counseling services or whatever. But ours is in-house, and we pay the therapist and staff in the Center for Wellbeing and Care to offer services that are available to all of us. And it's really a tremendous. They don't tell anybody anything. They don't share with the clergy. It's all very private and extremely professional. And if anyone has any questions about what's going on in their lives or needs some advice and life events or whatever, they're there, and it's really amazing. So.
And I'll say those services are free.
Yes, because we
pay
for them.
Yes, they're free, but they're not free to the institution.
Right, that's
right.
my point. Yes.
Yep, so 16 hours of free counseling for anyone in the congregation. It's a real gift, but we have to raise money for that. Yep.
I'm going to go off script here. I was not planning to talk about these two things, so we'll see how it goes. But I guess two things that I'm grateful for, and this falls more in the bucket of, sitting under the shade of trees you didn't plant. And one of them is the Center for Wellbeing and Care, where I think Laurie can keep me honest, but we've heard stats of 60% of the people, I think, that go to the Center for Wellbeing and Care are first-time seekers of therapy or counseling, and then 60% are male, and I certainly fall into both of those buckets. So about a year ago, I was just struggling with vocational questions and went and scheduled an appointment with Alex Bacon, had a couple conversations, which is incredibly helpful, and that would not have been an option if we didn't have that here at the church. And then the second thing, which is a very recent revelation, at our most recent vestry meeting last Monday, we had some folks from the music department, whatever we call it, come and speak. And Charles Milling, who you probably see if you come to Contemporary or Discovery Service, was sharing that at one point we had half of a musician for those services about a handful of years ago. And all I've known, because of the services we come to here, is really a full band. And our boys, who are now 10, 8, and 5, just love so much the casual nature of All Saints Hall. We love it too. And so, I think the music is something that we don't think about, but has been really grown over the last couple of years.
So I'm going to go a little off script too. I don't know if I can even tie this to generosity, but I've heard Carl's story before, but I am not a young pup anymore, but I'm not as senior as others in this parish are, but the example of healthy masculinity that men who are older in this church have set is awesome. And I just want to say that. It's incredible, and I'm not going to name 10 names, although I could, and I could probably keep going, but it's great. So that's the first thing. Second of all, for what I'm excited about, I would say my wife and I have also gotten a referral for folks we know from the Center for Wellbeing in this past year, so that's been really helpful. Second of all, there's a beautiful building going up next door, and your annual donation will not be paying for that right now, but the annual donation is paying for that in the future to keep the lights on in that space and for the community that it will build amongst this parish and in this community. So that's pretty darn exciting. And then I guess getting back to the people of this church and the staff of this church, it's pretty incredible to be a part of an organization like this parish where, at least in my opinion, the staff and the clergy, there are no duds. It's incredible. Everyone is kind and smart and talented and helpful, and they make this parish work here and in the community. And that takes effort and it takes funding. And so I am grateful that we as a parish can support having the talented folks working for this parish and clergy who make this church possible. And so I'm always excited to give because it helps sustain that talent who enriches us spiritually and enriches our community as well in so many ways.
I hope I can remember the question.
Just go off script.
The original question. But since I concentrate my volunteering inside the sanctuary. That's sort of my world that I get to see and enjoy and spend time in, alone and when we're having services. And I just want to say the music program here, it just touches my heart like nothing else. And sometimes when I come to fill up the candles during the week so that you have a nice flame on Sunday mornings, Ben or Owen, that they're up there practicing on the organ, or some of the choir members are practicing their solos. And I just think it's just the nicest thing. It's a blessing that I get to sit there and just soak it in. And I'm the only one in the church that can hear it. I don't know, I just think that's so special. I think the music program here in All Saints Hall is incredible. And it's helped to grow the Discovery service. I mean, you want to come to church when it's fun when you're 3 years old. And Charles definitely brings the fun. Mm-hmm. And I think that is huge. I also, I want to thank everybody who helped me sort of pay attention to the sacristy. Mm-hmm. I think the sacristy was built in the 1950s. And it's the first thing you see when you walk out of communion. And you used to see a bunch of Home Depot buckets and a trash can and a red or maroon countertop with blue tape covering the piscina that didn't work anymore. And I don't know if you go to the services in the church at 8:45 or 11:15, and if you go to the rail for communion, and if you exit to the right. But if you do, please take a peek, because it is beautiful. That room was the original sacristy, and we had to build on to add more room to hold the hangings and all the linens and just everything involved in the sacristy. But it's amazing what a coat of paint does for your mood. It's exciting. It's beautiful. And that room is a holy place, and it looks holy now. And I want to say thank you. And I'm also very proud of the countertop and the knobs that we waited 6 months for. We can now open the drawers and cabinets. And all the people who just stepped up and said, I want to help. And the sweet ladies of the Sunshine Guild who come into the church every Monday morning, who take apart the huge arrangements on the altar, and then they make 20 or so smaller arrangements and then deliver them to other people in our parish who are in a nursing home or have a birthday, who are in hospice. I mean, it just keeps giving. Those fresh flowers on the altar, we don't just throw them in the trash after Sunday. I mean, they just keep giving joy to the next people. And I don't know, I feel really proud that that's my little area that I get to tend to and take care of. It makes me feel a part of something really, really special. And all of that doesn't come for free either. And it takes everybody, everyone helping to make everything work around here. And I don't know, I just think that the more we take care of this holy place, the more this holy place will take care of us.
Well, this is my second tour of duty on the vestry. In fact, I was on the Vestry when we were interviewing a young man that would hopefully answer the call, and is this young fella down here on the end. What was that, 20 years ago, Chip? And I remember sitting right beside him, and he was answering a question. I was looked down at his shoes, and I was impressed the fact that he had used sole dressing around his shoes. I said, well, that's a man who still, he believes in details. So I hope he answered the call. So thank you for answering the call.
Yeah. I better get some more soul dressing.
Yeah. And being on the vestry, you've heard it, you realize that the church has a business component to it. And we've grown accustomed to enjoying the ministry, the music, the choir. I mean, everything that goes on, but there's a cost associated with it. And those costs continue to go up. And you've heard it before, 98% of our budget is from passing the hat. So we really count on each and every one of you to step up and help fund this ministry, which we've grown to enjoy.
Well, I got one more question for you. And, the reality is that each of us has to move from a place of saying, I belong to Christ Church, like many different organizations we might all be members of, whether it's associations, clubs, book groups, whatever you're a part of, from saying, I belong to Christ Church, to saying, Christ Church belongs to me. And I think that's the big shift, is when you move from that, I'm an attender, to I'm fully vested in. And when that happens, there's a great power that's released that enables us to do mighty, mighty things. And you see those things going on all around. Because of your generosity, we've been able to respond to the needs of a growing and younger congregation. All of you are growing younger, by the way, even being here right now. But we increased the size of the nursery in order to accommodate more children. We increased our kindergarten program by 30% in order to respond to wait lists that we were very unhappy about. We are now putting in place a 2,200 square foot youth facility that will allow our youth to, and this building, 17,000 square feet, extension of your home. And you ought to think of it that way. So this church, this building that we have, this Parish Life building, it's going to have a coffee shop in there, bistro, lots of spaces for people to connect. It will not be reserved. It will always be open Sundays during the week. It's going to provide a wonderful opportunity for us to really slow down and get to know each other. All of this renewed interest in outreach and ministry is happening as we start to look toward these new parish days that we're going to be talking about the city of Charlotte, what the needs are, and using those Sundays as days to get organized and go and do important things, all of us together intergenerationally. There's so much going on, and it would be easy to go, well, with all this going on, it'll all just take care of itself. I don't need to give anything; it'll all just kind of take care of itself. But right now, I'm sitting there going, we have a priest position in the budget. We're about a 1 to 6,000 ratio of clergy to parishioners, and I can't really hire that person until I see what the budget is, and that we have gotten the money we need for next year. So, I guess my question is for you all: how would you encourage every single person to think about their giving and what to do this year, as maybe they've already pledged. Maybe I know I've had moments I've pledged and then I pledged again. What would you say to people about the urgency of now and making that commitment? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, okay, the last will be first, or Alpha and Omega, whatever it is. Beginning and the end. My wife Jane has always said this is the church has always been here for us, And again, when we moved to Charlotte back in 1983, called my old alma mater, and they said, you should reach out to a fellow by the name of Tom Dooley, the father of Bob and David Dooley. And I caught up with him, and of course he said, you guys are going to be going to Christ Church. I said, yes, sir, yes, Mr. Dooley. And then he went into talking about giving and stewardship and generosity, and he said, you should give with no strings attached, because you'll get more back than you ever thought you would be. And it's so true. So that's kind of what I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would.
I just wanted to say quickly that there's power in the personal invitation of volunteering at the church. And when you volunteer for a committee or Advent or Lent or outreach or whatever, you become a part of a community. And I don't know, they're just, it becomes more important to give. You see the good you're doing in the community, within the church. You see the difference that you're making. And I just think it makes a huge difference from just sitting and attending services and actually digging in, helping, and being a part of the bold ministry that we're known for.
So I would say that the chance in this coming year to engage the broader community through things like intergenerational days of service is a chance to bring the church together across ages and stages, which is something really special about a church and this church. And so that is an opportunity that's not to be missed for us to give of our time for the service of the broader community where needs are great. And then as well as we are transitioning into the new spaces and continuing growth of the Center for Wellbeing and Care, the generosity of this church in the capital campaign was stunning. But the campaigns come and go every 5 or 10 years, but the maintenance and those wonderful staff are with us every day as we have our own spiritual and psychological and emotional needs. And so giving supports all of that happening every day and not just every 7 years. And so let's set ourselves on a great path as we give together to sustain the church as we know it and love it.
I was not going to talk about money anymore, but then since you changed the question, I feel obligated to. And so I guess to answer the question on setting of pledges, I'd encourage people to be thoughtful, intentional, have a conversation maybe with your significant other about it. And then once you kind of align on a number, wonder what would it look like if you increased it 20% more. And maybe you don't do anything to change that. Maybe you just keep it the way it was, but just the thought exercise of being even more intentional, I think will unlock additional insights. But what I was originally going to say was more on the talent side of things. And so Chip, you talk about the new building. And I think there's so much opportunity for all of us to be creative about how we use it. And I think we all, when we've talked about it, have said that we don't want it to just be a space that collects dust. And the coffee shop is going to be very helpful for maybe it's people who've dropped their kids off at CCK or are doing a men's group or women's group there. But are there other opportunities to use it? Like, I don't know, family nights, game nights, things like that. And so everyone here is going to have different creative ideas, and we just encourage everyone to lend that talent and time to making them a reality.
I would just encourage everyone, and I said this before, to make time to sit down and prayerfully, intentionally think about what you want to pledge, and echoing what y'all have said too, and make it a separate thing from what you give annually to other things or as they come along. Christ Church is here for all of us, and always will be, whether it's a wedding, a funeral, a moment when you need want to celebrate something happy or need to talk about something that's sad, Christ Church is here for all of us, and you can't put a number on it. You can't really put a price tag on it, but it's something we need to talk about, and something we need to talk about with our children and the younger people in our lives to make sure that they know that giving to their, wherever they are, their institution that takes care of them, make sure that they know that the importance of that too.
I would echo everyone's perspective around time and talent. I think once you volunteer and you see the inner workings, and especially if you do it as a family. I grew up overseas in Venezuela, and I grew up Catholic. And my dad, I was that big, he opened up a hospital for poor people that was 100% free. And we would go to the hospital and see the service that the hospital would provide. And those images are ingrained in my mind forever. So when we plan as a family today, we're very intentional to open the aperture. So it's not only 2026, we're thinking 27, 28, and how to make it bigger, better, more impactful. Back to my original comment, somehow God always provides. The church is not sheltered from inflation. All of us are impacted by inflation, and so is the church. So if you go to the grocery store, the gas station, any subscription service that you have, they're increasing their prices. So guess what? The clergy and everyone that works at the church is facing the same headwinds that all of us are facing. So how can we, all of us, dig a little deeper and think through not only 2026, but 27, 28, 29, and there's many ways of doing that. There's a donor advised fund. You can do some stock giving to the church. You can do. There's different mechanisms that if you have questions, we're happy to help and provide perspective.
Well, it's amazing to think about the journeys that each of you have been on and the people that have influenced you. And I want to thank, on behalf of our congregation, your willingness to step up to this sensitive conversation, because there's a lot of fear in giving of our time, talent, and treasure in a world that says there's not enough. And you all have faced that squarely. You face it every year. And yet, somehow in your prayers, your spirituality, your commitment, your habits, you are our stewardship leaders. And I would just say to everybody here, we're all on a journey together. And this church, over the last 50 years, 80 years, and the 20 that I've almost been a part of, has done extraordinary things. Through every moment, whether it was the financial crisis in 07, 08, to a host of mental health, some suicides that happened that enabled us to do a response. I'll never forget, and I know not everybody can do this, but I had a woman call me and she said, "Chip, I want to give a health worker to the church to help deal with this issue." And I said, "That's very kind. What would you like me to do?" And she said, "Come get the check." And she funded that for 10 years until she died. Other people just come and, like Balin said, get flowers and take, both of them are working with small kids, and take them out to somebody in need. This church has done small and mighty and extraordinary things over all of its years. We're now in a position to do even greater things through this capital campaign. But what we need is to really concentrate on our annual campaign and make sure that, because we believe that what God has in store for us in the future is even greater than what we've accomplished. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for your taking this into your heart. Thank you for what you've already done. Thank you for what you will do. And let us pray. Oh God, you have given everything to us. Everything that we have Even the money that we have in our bank accounts is just house money. You've given it to us as a gift. So help us to think and to pray about our time, talent, and our treasure. And help us to move more closely in line with you. Because it is in giving and sharing and loving that we find you. And it is in giving and loving and sharing that you move through us into the wider world. And when that happens, the world feels your love and hope. Amen. Thanks so much for coming today. And thank to our panelists for being here. Thank you for listening. We invite you to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and connect with Christ Church Charlotte on social media. If you'd like to attend a Faith Forum live, visit christchurchcharlotte.org/Faith Forum to view dates and details of upcoming talks.